Howdy, y'all. So, week 43, what is up? Um, a few things to note. Note to myself, maybe, don't make videos at the start of the week that are 14 minutes long, and then make a final video that's 18 minutes long, and say you're going to join them together, because, that's 32 minutes wasted of your subscribers' time, when some of them ain't here but to listen to my numbers. I don't know. Are you here to hear my ramblings as well? And this light just doesn't do it for me. How about, hey, I can see my face now. I look terrible. Maybe I should put it completely black. Anyway, so I ran way too many miles this week, and I was trying to make up for lost revenue from last week. So I ended in Lake Park not last week, but did I say that in my last video? So I stopped over through the house, and I was going to run it Saturday, and I should have, but I ended up in Lake Park, and I was stuck there for a whole day, guys. I mean, it was terrible. Monday, there was nothing coming out of there, so I kind of ended up getting screwed on end of last week's revenue, and I wish I could have pulled at least $400 more out of my bucket. Unlike this week. This week was really good. Other than mileage was terrible, so my rate, and I didn't get a good rate per mile, so it'll happen. It's gonna happen. And JB Martinez, I believe, I don't know how to say your name, dude, but I've seen some of your posts, and you're not booking but one load at a time. I kind of gave up the 5 at a time, and I'm just doing like 2 to 3 at a time. Sometimes I don't even do that. This week, I didn't do that because, I started in Lake Park, but my rate sucked, but I made the revenue I was looking for. I made almost $600 a day. So cheap freight, don't take cheap freight. Well, sometimes you got to take cheap freight to make your daily spot, just because if you sit and your truck sits, your truck ain't getting paid for, buddy. And then you're not gonna have a truck, and then you gotta go work for somebody else. And I'm sure I've said it before, but my main goal is pay this off, and then everything else, is scot-free. You can go be a company driver if you want, but in 3 years to 4 years to 5 years, depending on the income, and I'm projecting 3 years, this truck will be mine. In 3 years, what are you going to have? A job with benefits, and, you're still stuck in that job. Not me. Done with that. Done with it. So I one of the loads I ran was to Poca, West Virginia, to a client that we have that I worked for a decade and a half. And it's really good to know, for me anyway, that the garbage that was happening at that company, which is one of the main reasons I left, isn't just happening at the facility I worked at, which has now gotten rid of every single employee in the warehouse, which I'm so glad I left now, because I was making, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I was making. I was making less than I was in sales, and then I went in sales. I came over here, and now I'm making more than hauling their freight than I ever did working for their sales department. Of course, if they hadn't gotten rid of commissions and stock options and everything else that made the job worthwhile, it would still be a really great job. But now there's no incentive for any salespeople to perform. So take note, business managers, if you take things like everything away from your employees, do not expect them to perform at the level they used to perform. It doesn't work like that. The CEO of that company, thank God she's gone. My God. Stock did not split in the 15 years I was there. They said it used to split all the time. And then, I'm not blaming it on her, but after she got there, it never split again. Why? I don't know. I don't know enough about the stock market right now to tell you that, but I'm getting there. I'm doing my research, and I rolled over my 401k, except for the stock that's in that company, which is about 15 grand. I didn't even realize I had that much money in there. And then I'm rolling my pension over because it's either that or they say I'm going to have to take it. And I don't need $150 a month for life. And I don't need $350 a month for life when I retire. I want that money now, and I want it to work for me. So I can end up having more than $350 a month when I retire. Of course, I'm going to add other money to it. But speaking of which, you guys, sock as much money as you can into a Roth. You can stick away, self-employed, you can stick away up to $7,000 a year. That is a tax write-off. And if you're young enough, man, I wish I was like 20 or 30 years old doing this. Because if you're young enough, you can turn $100 a week into $1 million by the time you retire. It's called compounding interest. Look it up. And if you put $7,000 a year away, for me that'll be 70 grand, right? Because 50 years old, unless I do it until I'm 65. And excuse me for a minute, guys. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. I don't need to be going off on. Stick your money away for retirement, trust me. And don't just use that. I mean, a Roth, like if you had a 401k from your company, get rid of that sucker. Roll it all over it. Tell them you want a complete rollover into a Roth IRA, because that, most company stocks or 401ks only have like 10 or 20 different 15 stock options. And they're not always the most productive. You can actually go into a Roth IRA and pick anything you want. You can pick Swift Transport. And maybe you can watch it crash, just like their trucks. I'm sorry. I cracked myself up. I shouldn't. Look, I can't say anything because, we work for a company that has the same issues because they do the same thing. Driver mill. 2 words, driver mill. Stop doing that, because that's what causes one of these problems. Anyway, I'm sorry. I digressed way off of where I was supposed to for 8 minutes. Look at that. Okay. Get to the point. Maybe I should put a note in there. Numbers at 8 minutes and 9 minutes, 8.5 minutes. So, week 43. Swift stock. God, that's a good one. Oh my. Anyway, 41.1830 was the line haul revenue. Total expenses for the week were 2607.92. Yet another high week. Okay, 700 more than usual. Well, I don't know. It all depends on what week you look at. It is more than usual. It's like at least 400 over my usual. And I try and keep my gas around 700. It usually goes up to 1,000. It's anywhere from 7 to 1,000 on the gas. Okay, and there's a good reason for the gas being $10.29 this week. $394.75, $394.75. I told you about the maintenance that I did on this vehicle, I believe, in my last video, and that went on this week's bill because it happened on Tuesday. And I think that's when I made that last video. My fixed expenses went down, $9 because of the insurance. So those are down to, well, I want to say the mileage, but it's pointless because your expenses will fluctuate. The total amount your expenses are will never fluctuate. Well, okay, the total amount your fixed expenses will never fluctuate. That part won't fluctuate. As far as the cost per mile of that, it will fluctuate. That's why it's better to get a daily rate, because if you go for a certain cost per mile at, say you shoot for 2,500 miles a week, and your total expense, mine are at 2,500, are 80 cents or 88 cents a mile. Now, that's not true, because you're never gonna get the same mileage every week. Never. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Unless you sit there and go to like, okay, I'm gonna do 1,500 miles. Unless you're like, I don't know, a 1,500 mile person or a 2,000 mile person, and then you're like, the minute you hit 2,000 miles, you shut down. You're not gonna get the same miles per week. It doesn't work like that. I mean, you can try. You might get close, but there are gonna be weeks it's not going to happen. So, I mean, my expenses this week were only 73 cents for total expenses per mile, whereas my 2,500 mile per week expenses are 80 cents a mile. And I had extra expenses this week. What gives? What gives, Thor? Well, I drove 3,577 miles like a dope. So, you just heard what I said on the revenue, 41 whatever. I was at only about, I don't even want to say it. I was only at $1.15 for the week. So, hey, but you know what? What did I say the other day? That's still better than leasing a truck from, who is it that does that pays you $1.09 a mile or whatever it is, or $1.06 a mile? Never. So my profit was 42 cents a mile. So I made a little bit more than I actually was. When I left company, I was getting 41. I got a raise. But see, my daily revenue was $215.77 a day, which is more than last week, more than the week before that, more than the week before that, pennies below the week before that, and a few dollars below the week before that. So I made my daily revenue. If you can do that, even when you're running cheap freight, I'm sorry, there's no such thing as cheap freight. Even when you're running low that week, if you can make your daily revenue and your weekly revenue, then you're golden. As long as it's not a recurring issue. I mean, if it keeps happening, you need to rethink your numbers, right? I mean, if you look at last week and this week, right? I did 3577 this week. I'd like to keep my miles at 2,500 miles a week. That way, I'm not doing over 150,000 miles a year, which is the cap for the lease. And then they start charging 6 cents per mile extra, or whatever it was. I don't even know. I read it the other day and I'm like, whatever. I'm still good. So if you add up last week's miles and this week's miles, I made 5,000 and some change. If you add up the whole month, I got 9,000 and some change. So I am under the 2,500 mile a week cap I set myself at. I got almost $600 a day as far as daily revenue, because you got 4118 divided by 7. That's 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. I am $82 off from $600 a day. So what is that? $10 off, $11 off a day maybe. So I made $589 a day. That's just a round number. If you want to get technical, get your own calculator and punch in the numbers and say it to yourself in your head. I'm not concerned. I know what I made, and I know I made a crap rate this week, and I know between this week and last week it only ends up being like $1.30, $1.28. I don't know. I added it up. But for the month, that's one of the things I looked at, because you're gonna suck sometimes, right? For the month, it was $1.43. So now if I do some figuring, and the next 2 days, well, I can't work Tuesday because my clock ran out. Today I had an hour left on my 70, and tomorrow I have no time coming back, because that, I believe, is the Monday wraparound or something like that, and I didn't work Monday because I couldn't find a trip. So I got no time coming back Tuesday. Wednesday, because I stopped today at 4 p.m., My reset's at 2 a.m. and there's no hours. There's 1 hour or whatever. So my next reset will be 2 a.m. the next day, where I'll get 11 hours back. Wait, that's 34 hours. I'll get 70 hours back. So I get to boogie all over again and play the little game called Name That Freight Rate. Right? So, I mean, I'm not doing bad, right? July, $1.59. This is all my stats. July, $1.59. August, $1.52. September, $1.50. October, $1.43. So if you look at it, the small percentage rates that freight's been going down, I've been following right along. But, I mean, I barely know what I'm doing. I try to know what I'm doing. I try to act like I know what I'm doing. I don't even know why you people watch these videos. I don't know a thing about this business. I know many things about absolutely nothing. That's why I'm a jack of all trades and a master of nothing. So, anyway, guys, you know, all right, I got a little story for you. It's story time. Should we feel a little verklempt? No, we're not Jewish. Saturday Night Live. Old Saturday Night Live reference for the win. Actually, that wasn't the best Saturday Night Live. The best was when I was growing up. Not when some of y'all were growing up, you young whippersnappers. Anyway, so, yeah, I went to Guthrie, Kentucky. I went and dropped a load in somewhere, Kentucky, right? Somewhere down the road from Guthrie, Kentucky. And there was no empties. So they sent me an hour away to the middle of East Bumble, Kentucky. East Bumble, KY. And it was a chicken plant, right? So when I was dropping the load, I got to the customer, and they sent the thing saying, what did they say? Did they say there might not be any? They waited until I got there, right? I had been watching this, because, you know, when it gets this time of the year, you're steady watching you're steady watching the show empties button. If you know it's a customer that holds trailers, or there's not any there sometimes, and you just, every stop, show empties, show empties. The night before, show empties. The morning I woke up, show empties. Yeah, there's 8 or 10 there. Yes, I'll get a trailer. Maybe. Your best bet, you know, is like when you get there at 4 a.m. and they've just gotten done unloading the truck. If they have overnight crew, you know you're going to get an empty. Unless there's some other guy that's just like you that gets up at the crack of dawn and hauls butt to his location to get his trailer and drop his load. So I get there, and computer shutting down. I got there, and they said if they're empties, they'll be over there in that lot. So I went there. There's a brand new trailer. Awesome. The only one in the yard. I look at it, I pull up, I look at it, and there's a little red tag sitting in the electrical outlet. I'm like, man, don't even tell me this. So I hop out, and it says, the tag says, door was cracked when it came in, and a question mark. As if you don't know who broke the door. I'm sure that it was one of your guys, and you just were like, door was cracked when it came in? Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe one of y'all cracked it. It was a brand new trailer. Maybe one of our guys. Which one of you guys did that? Shame. Where's that at? Shame on you. So yeah, I went around back and double checked just to be sure it wasn't one of these drivers clowning around wanting to hold that trailer for himself. And sure enough, there was a split like that on the door. I'm like, man, come on. So I go around front, and I go in the door in the office. I said, hey, how you doing today? Or good morning, or whatever I said. She's like, I'm doing fine. I said, you wouldn't happen to have any empty trailers laying around of ours, would you? She says, who are you with? I said, Schneider. She's like, no, we're keeping all yours. I'm like, oh, good Lord. Thank you so much. So, shut up. So, I punched in exceptions. I actually went around. Before I went around, I had already punched in the exceptions button, because it takes them 5-10 minutes for them to send you an exception, even through the app or the web link. I use the web link because you can open multiple tabs in the web link. You can't do that in the app. And you can actually access the portal, the actual website portal, if you click on the little before you sign in. Like when you go in there, like if you want to take screenshots of the actual load, the true screenshots like you would have on your laptop, you go in and go to the web browser and log in. You don't log in. You go to the web browser and pull up the page, and then you go to desktop. You click on a little button at the top, drop down box, click the box that says desktop site, and it'll come up with the live feed, and then you sign in that way, and then you can take screenshots of that's how I take my screenshots. So little helpful advice there if you ever need to do that. And for those of you that don't know, if you're confused about the zip code, I just found this out today. I didn't know. So you have to actually go into the desktop site to see the actual zip code of the location, because you get to what is that Tennessee location? Midway, Tennessee has about 5 or 6 different Midway, Tennessee locations. So if you go into and I always thought it was like Greene County. That was the only one, because when I Google it, that's what it comes up with. But nope, that's not right, fellas. So if you do that and you get a trip that's like 200 miles away, yeah, that's your problem. That's what my problem was. I didn't know. Ignoramus, man. So you go in there and you type in, you actually have to open the whole trip, and it shows on there at the back end of it, like if it says Midway, Tennessee or whatever, it'll say at the back end, there'll be a zip code, and then you'll know. The only problem is if it's a load you really want, because it's like $2.50 a mile or something like that, you just click on the load. If it's a couple of days out, they'll take it off of you if you don't want it, and then you can figure out what zip code you were actually looking for, because it's ridiculous. You would think that they would put that in the app. Anyway, so I'm going to look for a trailer, and it sends me an hour away. Like, I'm going that away, and they want me to go that away and make a triangle, right? So I got to go an hour to an hour and 15 minutes out of my way to this place called Guthrie, Kentucky. Another place in Kentucky where there's nothing there. I don't mind. I live in the middle of nowhere, so I don't care about that. It's just I have to drive an hour to get to my trailer when you could have sent me somewhere along my route, or like on the other side of the location, not a roundabout way. I mean, isn't there someplace next door? Or less of a distance away. Anyway, I get there. It's a chicken plant, like a hatchery, and this Mexican dude's at the guard shack, right? So I pull up. You spray shoe. Like, what? He's got this can of Lysol. He's like, you spray shoe. You spray bottom of shoe. Okay. I mean, but there's dirt in my floorboard. There's germs from truck stops that have been pissed on the ground that I guarantee you are on the floorboard of my truck. I didn't tell them that. But, I mean, there is, right? You know what? I'm stepping on this with bare feet. You put it back on my carpet. I didn't even think about that. I might have to rub my feet off with alcohol when I get done. So I got the can and I sprayed the bottom of my shoes, and I couldn't really reach my right foot, so I opened the door and sprayed my right foot, bottom of my right foot, shoe. Not my foot, my shoe, because it was on my foot. And then I sprayed the floorboard, and I was like, yeah, see, look. And my truck smelling like Lysol for at least an hour. So I pull up over there, and the guy's pulling the trailer into the door. When I had looked at the app, it tells you, I got a thing, because, if there's one trailer there, they usually assign it to you, or they supposedly assign it to you, and you get a notification that says, trailer DVIR. Well, the time on that DVR was the exact same time within minutes of me dropping my trailer. So I'm like, this is really fishy. Somebody either just dropped an empty here and they're going to be using it, or they just dropped a loaded here and they think it's going to be empty. And it was the second. It was the latter. So I got there and they hadn't put it in a door yet. He was just putting it in a door. He's like, yeah, that'll be done in about 20 minutes. So I waited. I said, I'm not driving another hour to get to another location to get a trailer. He said, you can hook up to it when I drop it and they'll come out and let you know it's done. My trailer. I took that sucker. You skimpy, doggone skimpy, I took that trailer. So, Guthrie, Kentucky. Anyway, that was the fun part of my week, I believe. Other than driving around like a maniac. Man, I have been flying everywhere. One thing to consider, those of you that like to drive fast, and you say, well, it gets the best gas mileage at 1,500 RP. No, it doesn't. It does not. It gets the best gas mileage at 1,250, 1,200, whatever it is. And I know y'all love to hate Kevin Rutherford, but if you watch what he does, why is this guy getting 12 miles per gallon if he's not going to get it at 70 miles per hour? You speed demons, you. It's not true. But the man drives 58 miles an hour almost everywhere he goes. So I was bound and determined to do that this week. I couldn't make my time that I needed to make and make the money I needed to make to do that. So maybe next week will be a better week for me trying to do 58 miles per hour. You know, I do 63 the majority of the time, just like a company driver everywhere. And my average speed over 80,000 miles now, or 100,000 miles, is on my GPS is 57 miles per hour. So you're losing about 10%, right? So that's about where he's at, because he said he does 57 to 58, and his average is 50. Actually, I thought he said it was 54. I'll have to look it back up again, which I find kind of peculiar because he's going 5 less than I am. He's going 5 less than I am, and he's only lost 3 more miles per hour. So if I can average 54, which is above our 50 mile per hour average, and I'm not shooting for 12 miles per gallon. I don't have a Mack truck. He's driving the new Mack now, and he was driving a Volvo. I don't have either one of those. Our engines are DDs, DD13 or whatever, like his, but our specs are 0.20 off or something like that on the rear end, and we don't have everything aerodynamic like he does. I don't want all that extra crap. I just want my truck to climb a hill and get good gas mileage. But, you know, maybe I can do it at 58 sometimes. I just can't. 63 is slow enough, man. It's slow enough. Your tires get hot and wear faster at 70. So, in addition to wasting gas, you're costing yourself more money. Can you get one extra trip out of it? Is it worth $500 extra, $600 extra to get one extra trip out of that when your tires cost so much money? And between tires and gas and everything else, I mean, there's arguments left and right about that, you know. I'll stick with my 63 because freight will bounce back, you know. It's freight. It's got to be moved somehow, and a train can only go so far. Amazon can only haul so much, although they're getting day cabs now. So we'll probably lose, if we have any Amazons. I haven't seen any. I know some people have said they were hauling them, but I haven't seen a single Amazon account. And they're really, from what I've heard from other drivers, is they're in the spot market. Amazon sucks for hauling freight for. Anyway, what else? Nothing else. I'll stick with my 63 miles an hour. I'm going to try and do 58 here and there. And I have gotten a lot better gas mileage when I've done like 59 and 60. So I might do that here and there, save a little bit of gas. It is coming at a time of year where we're going to lose half a mile per gallon minimum on winter fuel, which makes our trucks perform a lot less than a rocket, because they already perform less than a rocket enough. So the additives going in there will suck our gas mileage out, because the burn ratio is that much higher or whatever. I don't know. I'm not concerned about the aspects of the fuel. I'm just concerned about saving it to get more revenue. I need another $1.94 a week. So I'm going to shoot for that again. But you also got to consider, one other thing to consider though. I mentioned that in the other video. I don't think I mentioned this one. So watch Jeffrey Lake's last video. Not his last video, but his second to last. The one that says ELD something or other. At the start of it, he talks about, are we really in a recession? We're kind of in a recession, and we're also in a correction. So everything he said makes perfect sense to me. And it's almost done correcting itself, which means soon and very soon, the market's going to go up. It might take another 6 months, but it's going to go up. The rebound is on the way, fellas. And you know what that means. So, I think about the time that the slowdown goes away after Christmas, I think about that time we'll see it coming back, finally. Those of us that are new, like Jabe, and I don't know who else watches this that joined about the same time I did, but I know it can be rough. It'll bounce though. Just like a basketball, it's cyclical. Everything. Just like the housing market, they say it's about to crash. It's like, if you want to get a house, wait a little bit longer, because trust me, if I recall, right now it's a seller's market. What does that mean? That means that if you're a person selling a home, you can ask for a higher rate than you would normally get. If you're a real estate broker, you're going to make more money, because the commission on that higher rate gives you more money. You got to wait, because it's going to crash. It's not going to crash like it did 8 years ago, whatever it was. But it's going to crash, which means it'll turn into a buyer's market, which means you can get a better rate and you can get a better house for your money. I told my wife that. She said, well, I'm going to get a house and use some of the money from that, then I got to pay a penalty. I said, if I really have to, I'm going to do that, but that's not the wisest decision, even though, with this kind of business, I can make the money. It's just got to give it a little bit of time. But, the property is mine. All I got to do is get something put on it. But, like, if it's a mobile home, any kind of home, right? A mobile home, modular, whatever you want to call them nowadays, any kind of home, the market's going to go down, which means they're going to have a hard time selling their product, which means they're going to need more incentives to sell the product, regardless of what it is. Once that market reaches its plateau, it's got to come back down. Everything has to have a correction. Everything. Every single business. It doesn't matter what kind of business it is, there's always some kind of correction. That's why the stock market goes up and down. Man, I've done so much research, and here it is, 34 minutes, and the other one was 42 minutes. I'm done. You guys, keep the left door closed, keep the hammer down.